Should I go up to him? You asked Taehyung with a worried tone. You heard the man? Why? He said 2 hours. Taehyung voiced warningly before searching through the fridge and cabinet for food. Oh, cookies! He grinned, grabbing the packet and placing them on the table. As you took cookies, Taehyung's phone rang. Yeah, it's Taehyung. What's up? He muttered into the phone while picking up a cookie. You watched the color drain from Taehyung's face, making him look like a ghost. The cookie dropped from his hand to the floor as he listened to the person on the phone. You are fucking joking? Taehyung spat on the phone. His tone changed from shock to angry in a second. Fucking dumbass recruits. Taehyung hit his phone across the room in a fit of anger. You was afraid to say anything, so you just stood there staring at Taehyung with widened eyes. What happened? You finally chirped up after Taehyung took a few breaths. You know those stupid little recruits we were training? Taehyung snarled while clenching his fists. They stole 2 million worth of stocks. 2 fucking million. He shouted, aggravated due to the whole switch situation. How did they even? You cut yourself off because you didn't want to be shouted out. What are stocks? You asked, confused. Taehyung turned to you and gave you the most judgmental stare you have ever gotten. You are with a fucking mafia leader and you don't know what stocks are? Taehyung's eyes widened when he realized you wasn't joking. No, you muttered quietly, trying not to laugh at the insane expression on his face. Taehyung stayed silent before taking a deep breath in. Stocks are drugs, YN. He pinched the bridge of his nose. Oh, you replied, really struggling not to laugh at your stupidity. You need to go calm him down before he goes on one of his famous killing spears. He rolled his eyes. They're famous? You questioned with a shocked tone. No, it was sarcasm, YN. Now go. Taeyong demanded after glaring viscously at you. You left the kitchen and headed up towards Jungkook's room. Would he be in his office or his bedroom? You'll try the bedroom. You feel like the office would be too much for him to handle. The door was shut, so you knew he was in his bedroom. You was scared to talk to him since you knew he would be very angry, but he's your boyfriend, so he has to listen to what you have to say. Plus, you are his future wife after all. You rolled up the sleeves and knocked on the door lightly. He didn't respond as usual. You tried to open the door, but it was locked. Jungkook John, open the door right now, you demanded harshly. No, he grumbled loudly so that you could hear it through the door. Right now, Jungkook. You put your hand on the doorknob. After a moment, you heard a click that signaled that he unlocked the door. You waited a minute before walking in. When you opened the door, which let out a small creak, you saw Jungkook sitting on the edge of bed with his head in his hands. His elbows were resting on his knees and he looked exhausted as usual. He was wearing his suit but had loosened his tie ever so slightly and unbuttoned the first button of his shirt. He even had his shoes on. You could also see his chain around his neck. He never takes that thing off. Your bracelet was sitting on the nightstand next to him because you didn't like wearing it while you slept. The room was dim and dark due to the heavy curtains being shut, and the only thing really visible was a candle he had lighted probably moments before you had come up. You think he preferred to be in the darkness. You believe he finds it more calming. 2 million. 2 fucking million. He growled, sending his watch flying across the room. Jungkook, it's money. At the end of the day, you have more than you need. A lot of those kids come from families who have nothing, and I'm not saying it's right. I'm just saying I don't think you should be as angry about it as you are. You mumbled as you approached him. You don't get it. I took those kids in. I made them my own. I let them run with the big dogs. They owe me more than their lives. But what do I get in return? 2 million worth of stocks stolen. And okay, then let's forget the fact that they stole my fucking guards. Didn't do their job properly. They thought it was completely fine to let three 16-year-olds take a fucking truck filled with drugs. Jungkook shouted frustratedly while glaring at you with his eyes full of hate. You just blinked at him for a while after he finished shouting. I guess you're right. It's your business and your way of earning money. At the end of the day, if recruits can steal it from under you, I don't see why anyone else can't. You agreed, sitting next to him. He opened his palm, letting you draw circles around his hand. I just don't like to see you angry, you muttered as you sat next to him, grabbing his exhausted stare. He took your hand and made you stand before he let out a sigh. His hands instinctively placed themselves on your waist, pulling you closer to him. This is too much to think about. I have a headache, he grumbled, resting his head on your shoulder. You grabbed his face with your hands gently and forced him to stare at you. You planted a kiss on his forehead before leaning your forehead against his. Our kids better not get into this much trouble, Jungkook replied with a certain vulnerability in his voice. You couldn't believe he just made that comment. He does want kids, but the question is when. You know he isn't ready just yet, but maybe when you both were in your 40s. Jungkook's birthday is coming up soon and he will be 26. He doesn't know that, you know Taehyung had to tell you. Apparently he doesn't like his birthday being celebrated because each year was just going to be a repeat of the previous one. Honestly, you have no idea what to get him or what to give to him. You know that he doesn't like people, so you was thinking about keeping it strictly friends and you are hoping to get Ice to come from California. Their friendship has really improved since Ice left. Maybe Jungkook realized how much he actually depended on him. He lay his head on your shoulder as you undid his tie. You helped him take off his flashy black suit jacket along with his insanely white shirt. You slowly unbuttoned the shirt while he stared in awe at you. His brown eyes were big and bright, even though it was dark in the room, and although you could still see the exhaustion on his face, you could also see the peacefulness washing over him. He was always tired when he got home, no matter what he did that day. How do you not get this shirt dirty? Let me in on your secret. You smile gently at him with a happy expression flooding your face. This is like my 12th shirt today, love, he stated while rolling his eyes, struggling to fight off his grin. Okay, that does make a lot more sense. You face palm before he grabbed your wrist, gently pulling your hand down from your face. Let me see you, he uttered gently, staring into your eyes intensely. You tried to be serious, you really did, but you just ended up giggling due to his intense glare. You watched his features soften at the sound of your giggle. I giggle a lot, I'm sorry. You grinned mischievously, knowing you wasn't sorry. You couldn't take anything seriously, but you couldn't care less. He didn't respond, instead, he just nodded slightly before shutting his eyes. He desperately needed rest. If you want to have a nap, I can go downstairs. You stroked his cheek. No, it's fine. What time is it? He questioned, curiously looking around for a clock. You checked your wrist and Jungkook shot you a confused glance. I don't have a watch. I don't know why I did that. You grinned as you shook your head. Where's your bracelet? He asked, noticing that you wasn't wearing it and was almost hurt by the fact that you wasn't wearing it. You pointed to the nightstand next to him where your bracelet was laying. Jungkook reached for the bracelet and unlocked it with his key before clicking it back onto your wrist. He ran his finger over the heart on the bracelet. I have given you my heart, love. Please don't break it. He uttered quietly with his deep voice that was husky and his face plastered with no emotion except for his eyes. His eyes were full of worry as if he was pleading with you not to break it. You realize that he's never actually loved anything before you. He has never given his heart to anyone. His heart to anyone due to his overwhelming fear of someone breaking more than it already was. He has placed his heart in your hands and trusted you not to break it, and you won't. Never. You whispered, grabbing his cheeks and squishing them together. You let out a giggle at his face as he grinned gently at your laughter before he kissed you. Both of your lips colliding, destroying any space that was left between you both. Are you going to nap now? You look tired, Cookie. You smoked, knowing he would hate his nickname. Don't call me that, he growled, standing up. You shrieked, clinging onto him like your life depended on it. He threw you over his shoulder, letting you dangle. Jungkook, put me down, you shrieked, holding onto his suit trousers. He had one hand up around your waist, holding you in place on his shoulder while unbuttoning his suit trousers with the other. The trousers fell to the floor and he stepped out of them before throwing you onto the bed. We are not having kids yet, but that doesn't mean we can't practice. He smoked evilly. You could only imagine what goes on inside his head and not the one in his boxer, because you know what comes out of that. As much as I would love to practice, you need to sleep, Jungkook. You glared at him from the bed. But I don't want to. He groaned, throwing his back angrily. Come on, lay down. You held your arm out. You could see him debating it in his head. Fine, he groaned angrily, climbing onto the bed and into your arms. He rested his head on your chest while his arm wrapped around your stomach. His grip was tight but gentle, almost like he was afraid to break you. You ran your hands through his hair, watching his eyes become harder to open after he blinked. I love you, love, always, he mumbled, half asleep. I love you too, you whispered, stroking his cheek with your thumb. Eventually, his eyes shut and he was asleep. You waited a few minutes before worming your way out of Jungkook's tight grip. You needed to talk to Taehyung to make arrangements for Jungkook's birthday that he didn't know you knew about. You glanced at Jungkook one last time before leaving his room. You are the person who knows him the best in the world and you have no idea what to do or get him for his birthday. Not to mention, he already hates it, so you have no clue how to make this day enjoyable for him. You wandered into the kitchen to see Taehyung finishing his cookies. Where's Jungkook? He asked curiously but also careless at the same time. He's sleeping, you murmured before sitting across from him. What are we going to do for Jungkook's birthday? You sigh, shaking your head. I know exactly what to do. Taehyung glanced at you with excited expression flooding his face. What should we do then? You asked Taehyung, clearly stressing out due to your lack of ideas for Jungkook's birthday. Jungkook has always wanted to get away from the mafia, but he's never really had a chance since he is the leader of one. So I was thinking that you could take him on a holiday. I'll handle things with the mafia over here until he gets back, or else he can put someone else in charge. I don't mind either way. He will enjoy being away, especially if it's with you. Taeyang explained it wasn't a bad idea. You know that Jungkook can be very stressed out sometimes due to it. Maybe sometimes away will let him distress for a little bit. You decide where you guys go, but you also have to decide what present you are going to get him because, of course, I can't do that for you. He grinned at you before showing you slightly. What was that for? You glared at him. I don't know, I am in a playful mood. Taeyong walked out. Taeyong was becoming the brother you always wanted. Yeah, he's annoying and really irrational sometimes, but overall, he just wants the best for the people he cares about. You can tell that Taeyong is missing Ice probably more than he would have because Taeyong is getting all of Ice's unfinished paperwork now. But you think he also just misses one of his best friends. Plus, you think Taeyong also wants a break from Jungkook. Now you had to think about where you wanted to take Jungkook. He is a very complicated man, always stressed, never smiling, not simplistic. So maybe you shouldn't think too hard about where to take him. You should take him somewhere simplistic with no distractions. You feel like Jungkook would love Hawaii. There's something about him that seems like he would really like it over there. He told you one night that he loves to swim because it's soothing for him. He doesn't get to do it often since he's always working. So maybe if you rented a little beach house next to sea, he would enjoy it more. Then, when he comes back, Ice and Taehyung will be waiting for him and they can have their guys' night. But you have no idea what to get him for a present. You will think about it later when you are booking the flights and renting the house. Jungkook had woken up from his nap and Yu was no longer laying in his arms. He sighed before grabbing his journal, realizing that he hadn't written anything today. He was in a bit of a grumpy mood as usual, but that didn't stop him from writing. Today was a stressful day as usual. Taeyong has learned and informed me that my father was camping out in one of my man's house. It was hours away, but at least now I can keep an eye on him after all. I still don't forgive him for what he did to my mother. I don't think I ever can. It was the worst act of cruelty he had ever done to me. He killed her to punish me for loving a woman I could not control loving. I wasn't able to hide the fact that I was falling for Ryan in front of my father, and he hated the idea of Ryan turning me soft. I'm not soft, if anything, I'm just as strong as before, more mentally stable than before. I'm more forgiving now. I have sent my men to take away his basic supplies and turn off the water. That home will become his cell. I will let him starve and dehydrate as a punishment for what he done to my mother. Then I will go to the house and slit his throat. He was afraid of Ryan turning me soft. I'll show him just how merciless I can be while I'm with Ryan. I can't wait to wrap my hands around his throat and watch the life start to slowly drain from his face before I take a knife and end him once and for all. I'm getting revenge for all the mental abuse he put me through. I'm getting revenge for the multiple times he would throw me in a room when I was 15 and let boys my age beat me until I screamed for my father to come back help me. He used to do this to show me that I will always need him now. He is the one who will need me. He wasn't finished writing, but you had come back into the room. What time is it? He asked with a grumble before pulling a pillow over his face. You slept for roughly an hour, so it's 10 p.m. You replied, sitting on the edge of the bed with most of your back to him, but at an angle that he could still see your face. You looked irresistible. Your dark brown hair was showed up into a messy bun, and your light brown eyes glistened due to the light that peeking in at you through the door. You was holding your journal as you jotted something into it. Jungkook watched a loose strand of hair that you had tucked behind your ear fall to the side of your face. You were looking flawless to him. You were just perfect. Jungkook noticed the baggy hoodie hanging slightly off your shoulder and the shorts that were barely visible due to how long and big his hoodie was on you. Jungkook slowly moved towards you before pressing his lips against your naked collarbone. He watched you scream and tell him to stop but not push him away. Jungkook gently kissed your neck and then your cheek, making you blush slightly as you tried to concentrate on what you was writing. Do you want to go get food? He whispered in your ear, finally getting 100% of your attention. Yes, you smiled as your eyes light up with curiosity. What food do you want to eat? He asked with a hushed tone. McDonald's. You grinned evilly. Jungkook rolled his eyes before standing up and walking over his dresser. He put on a new set of clothes before glancing over at you, who blushed when he caught you staring at him. Are you ready? He asked, curiously glancing at you up and down. Is this not good enough? You looked down at your shirt that you were wearing. No, you are perfect, he muttered while he shrugged, walking out and downstairs before grabbing his keys. He stood at the door waiting for you, who came downstairs shortly after him. Taehyung, we are leaving for a bit. Don't burn the house in our absence. He shouted. Can't promise anything. Taehyung roared back from somewhere in the house. It was 10:30 p.m. by the time you both reached McDonald's, and you was like a greedy little kid who had just been given chocolate for the first time. What do you want? Jungkook cushioned as he rolled down the window and rested his arm against the brim of the car's window frame. Chicken nuggets, you mumbled. While you stared down at your feet, he ordered the food and collected it from the driver through. You held the food as he pulled into a pretty empty riverside area. He got out of the car and gave you a mischievous smile before climbing onto the car bumper. You didn't even question what he was doing, instead, you just watched. You saw him walk up his car until you could only hear his heavy footsteps on the car roof. It was the end of August now, so it was decently cold outside. It was probably the reason why he wanted to eat outside almost 11 p.m. You opened the car door and stood outside breathing in the fresh air. You felt like you hadn't been outside in years. You climbed into the car with the McDonald's in one hand and Jungkook's hand holding the other, helping you up so that you didn't slip while walking on the windshield. You sat at the top of the car next to Jungkook, who was staring up at the stars. You turned your attention to the starlight sky. Which one is my star again? You asked curiously. I have no idea. Jungkook spoke with a little grin. He was happy tonight, which you liked but wasn't normal. What's got you in a good mood? You chirped before opening the bag of food and pulling out your chicken nuggets. I don't know. He shrugged as he reached for his food. You both sat on the car and ate the food. You felt full, almost like you was going to pop. Jungkook, I think I'm going to explode. You grumbled while you lay down on top of the car. He gave you a cheesy smile and continued to eat his food. You watched as he munched on the fries, looking very pleased with his decision to go get food. I don't do this often, you know. He spoke up with a gentle but guilty tone. Don't do what? You cushioned him as you stared peacefully at the glistening stars above. I don't, go out for food and stuff, he muttered before giving you a worried glance. You mean a date? you uttered, turning your attention towards him. Yeah, I mean dates. I'm not good at them, hence why we never go on any and just stay inside and watch movies all the time. Jungkook grumbled, but you could sense a hint of anger in his voice. Does that upset you? You questioned him, wondering why he was telling you this. Yeah, you deserve better than me, someone who will take you on dates all the time and give you all their attention instead of spending it working. Or sat at a desk signing his name onto stupid piece of papers that won't matter in a year. He expressed before running his hand through his hair due to stress. You just let out a giggle and he shot you an offended look before crossing his arms and resting them on his knees, stubbornly almost like a child and turning away from you. No, no, baby, I wasn't laughing at you. I was laughing at your thoughts because you are overthinking and also because you are the best anyone could possibly get. You muttered with a smile as you sat up and moved beside him. You threw your arms around him and kissed his cheek repeatedly before he eventually caved in and kissed you back. One of his arms held your side, which also allowed him to pull you closer to him if he desired. I love you, he whispered and planted a kiss on your forehead. I love you the most. You beamed happily. We could run, love. He spoke in a hushed tone as if it was a secret. We would run and never look back, he muttered gently while staring at the floor. Why the sudden change of heart? You know we will die if we run. You replied, staring at Jungkook, who just let out a sigh. I love you more than anything. I want to have a family with you without having worry if someone is going to try kill us every 5 minutes. Jungkook ranted loudly. We won't be having a family for a while, but that doesn't mean we can't spend a few years with just each other. Jungkook grumbled before forcing himself to calm down. You just blinked at him. I mean, what was you supposed to say since you didn't know he hated being in the mafia that much? He stayed silent for a moment, letting the gentle breeze soothe his anger. Okay, I'm good now, he reassured you as he continued to eat his food. How are you? I'm so confused. You questioned him. Sometimes I want what I can't have, so I have to ask myself if it's actually possible and it's not. He glanced at you with no expression. So I get over it and move on. I like to call it my momentary weakness. He mumbled as he finished his food. Jungkook has always been very mature for his age. He's turning 26, yet he acts like he's 50, probably due to the fact he carries a whole mafia on his back. Most of the time he wants things, but can't them have because of the mafia, but you couldn't help him even if you wanted to. You got distracted from your thoughts when Jungkook's phone got a notification. Jungkook pulled his phone out of his pocket and read the text. They have cut off water supply to the house my father is staying in. They're going to raid it now and steal the food, he announced to you before getting down from the car roof and throwing rubbish in the trash. As much as I have enjoyed this, it's time to go home, he said with a serious tone. You was happy. You got him for a few moments while he was happy and not stressed out about something.